Picture this. You wake up one morning, roll down to the gas station, and see prices at the pump have tripled overnight. You hit the grocery store, and basic staples are completely through the roof. And that massive AI boom the whole world has been obsessing over? The microchip supply chain just slammed into a brick wall. This isn't some dystopian sci-fi pitch. This is the brutal reality of 2026. A crisis that kicked off on February 28th, and we are still actively dealing with the fallout today. In today's deep dive, we're going to look at the hard data to figure out exactly how a single airstrike pushed the global energy grid to the brink. We'll look at how Iran effectively shut down a major global choke point without sinking a single ship, purely by waging an insurance war. We'll unpack the insane math of how a cheap 20 grand drone is actively outsmarting America's $15 million missile defense systems. We'll expose why this specific conflict is a massive gut punch to the global AI industry and our food supply. And finally, how this standoff is posing the single biggest existential threat to the 50-year-old petrodollar system. Let's decode this economic nightmare together. On the morning of February 28, 2026, the US and Israel launched a massive, coordinated airstrike deep into Iranian territory. The target was Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. State media later confirmed he was killed in the strike. Washington and Tel Aviv banked on the idea that a decapitated Iranian regime would instantly fold. But that backfired big time. Following Khamenei's death, Iran didn't just retaliate against US and Israeli military bases. They threw a massive curveball and struck outside the combat zone, targeting Qatar's vital energy infrastructure. By March 2026, Iranian ballistic missiles rained down on Qatar's Ras Laffan industrial city, the absolute largest LNG terminal on the planet. The strike triggered catastrophic structural damage and massive fires, drawing heavy international condemnation. But the absolute epicenter of this entire conflict lies in one specific geographic bottleneck: the Strait of Hormuz. Sandwiched between Iran and Oman, this tiny strip of water is just 21 nautical miles wide. Yet, on any given day, roughly 20% of the world's crude oil and 25% of its LNG squeezes right through it. Iran laid down a hard ultimatum. Until the conflict ends on their terms, not a single drop of oil gets through. Knowing they'd get completely wiped out in a head-to-head naval shootout with the US Navy, Iran pivoted hard into asymmetric warfare. They deployed a four-pronged strategy. First, naval mines. They seeded the ocean floor with thousands of explosives. Second, swarm tactics. They deployed lightning-fast speedboats and kamikaze drone boats to harass supertankers. Third, coastal batteries. They started picking off ships using cheap munitions launched from hidden cave bunkers built into the mountains. But the fourth strategy was the absolute masterstroke: actuarial warfare, also known as the insurance war. Major marine insurance firms basically looked at the risk in the region and flat out refused to underwrite war risk policies for commercial vessels. Without insurance, banks freeze the financing, and without financing, ships legally cannot sail. Marine traffic plummeted to near zero, almost overnight. The most mind-bending part of this entire war is the cost asymmetry. One of Iran's off-the-shelf suicide drones costs maybe 20 to 35 grand. But to shoot that drone out of the sky, the US military has to fire a THAAD interceptor missile, ringing in at a cool 12 to 15 million bucks a pop. And standard protocol means it sometimes takes 2 or 3 shots to guarantee a kill. Do the math. The Pentagon is burning $30 to $45 million just to swat down a $20,000 drone. That insane price disparity is absolutely bleeding the US defense budget dry. Now, this crisis didn't just spike gas prices, it hit the global economy right in its Achilles heel. First up, the helium crisis. Qatar is the world's heavyweight champion of helium supply. Between the Ras-Laffan strike and the Strait of Hormuz lockdown, the global helium supply chain snapped. By late 2026, tech giants like Samsung and SK Hynix were scrambling, which literally brought global AI chip production to a grinding halt. Then there's the fertilizer crisis. A third of the global fertilizer trade moves through this exact strait, with Qatar pumping out massive amounts of urea. With fertilizers locked up, global farming took a massive nosedive. The UN actually had to issue a red alert, warning that tens of millions of people could be pushed directly into severe food insecurity. But the biggest geopolitical earthquake is happening quietly, behind the scenes. For the last half-century, the vast majority of the world's oil has been traded in US dollars, the absolute bedrock of the petrodollar system. But with the West distracted, China saw an opening. They've been deploying a massive shadow fleet of off-the-books tankers to buy up Iranian oil, and they're paying exclusively in Chinese yuan. This is a direct, calculated assault on the supremacy of the US dollar. At the end of the day, when global superpowers play geopolitical chess, it's always the everyday working class people who get crushed. In the US, soaring diesel prices mean the cost of everyday goods is skyrocketing. But in Asia, it's completely devastating. Delivery drivers in India are seeing their livelihoods wiped out. Governments in the Philippines and Thailand are forcing state workers to slash their hours. In Bangladesh, universities have literally been forced to shut their doors. The 2026 Hormuz crisis is a brutal wake-up call. It proves exactly how fragile the modern world really is. Our food, our tech, and our entire global economy are hanging by a thread. And when the big players go to war, ordinary people are the ones left footing the bill. So, what's your take? Is this the beginning of the end for the petrodollar empire? Or is there still a way to walk this back? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. If you got some value out of this deep dive, go ahead and smash that like button, share it with a friend, and make sure to subscribe. Catch you in the next one.